Desire is not born, it is produced. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why you desire what you desire? It is not a natural inclination, nor a physiological need. Desire is not hunger, nor thirst. It does not arise from the body, it seeps into consciousness, and even more. It is shaped by words, by symbols, by everything you have heard, believed, and, above all, never questioned. Imagine a child in front of a shelf full of toys. She observes everything with relative indifference until an adult voice says, "You can't have that, it's for older kids." Just like that. That toy immediately becomes the object of her desire. What changed? The essence of the toy is the same, but one word, forbidden, performed an internal mutation. Sartre reminds us that man is not what he is, but what he projects himself to be. And desire is the fuel of that projection. When you hear success, power, recognition, your body does not vibrate reflexively. It vibrates because those words have already been invested with seductive meanings throughout your life. They have been associated with what is worthy, valuable, enviable. It's as if words install invisible software in our minds, programming us to desire what culture has already wrapped in ribbons of prestige. But what if those words were emptied? What would remain of your desire? To desire is to interpret the world, and language is the tool of that interpretation. Think of two people facing the same scene, a Sunday of boredom. One describes it as empty, meaningless, a waste. The other calls it a rare silence, a necessary pause. The experience is the same. The desire that emerges is not. For one, the desire to escape is born. For the other, the desire to stay. There is no desire without narrative. Popular psychology often tells us we are driven by our deepest desires, as if they were hidden essences waiting to be discovered. But the truth, as Sartre said, is more uncomfortable. We are the ones who fabricate our desires as we choose our projects. Desire does not reveal who you are. It reveals who you are trying to be. Now think of your life, of everything you have ever desired, of everything you still desire. How many of those wants are truly yours? How many were installed in you as invisible commands? The car, the ideal body, someone's approval, stability. Were they desires you formulated consciously, or were they words that triggered automatic reactions? And what if it were possible to reprogram that? What if you could choose the words you want to resonate within yourself? Freedom, courage, detachment, truth. How do those words sound to you? Do they ignite your desire or silence it? Sartre said that man is condemned to be free, and it is precisely because we are free that we have the power and the anguish to choose our desires. There is no instinct that saves us. There is no script to guide us. Only words. Words we hear. Words we repeat. Words that shape what we want to be. The question then arises, have you been desiring what you desire, or merely repeating others' desires? Who wrote the script of your wanting? Have you noticed how certain words carry special weight when they come from another person? You are unique. I've never met anyone like you. I can't stop thinking about you. These phrases ignite something beyond the ego. They touch the core of what Sartre called being for others. We are beings conscious of ourselves. Yes, but we are also beings who see ourselves through the eyes of others. We desire to be desired. Desire, in this case, is not only for the object, but for the reflection it returns to us. We want to be in another's eyes as something indispensable, enchanting, necessary. It is not enough to be intelligent, beautiful, or strong. Someone must recognize you as such. The other's word in this context becomes almost a sentence. It can be liberating, but it can also imprison. Imagine someone who spends their life seeking approval. They live to be admired, accepted, loved. Each compliment is like a dose of anesthesia against the anguish of not knowing who they are. That person does not desire a path. They desire applause. They do not desire a project. They desire the reflection. And in this game, every word spoken by the observer turns into a new compass, even if a false one. Sartre said that hell is other people, but this is not contempt for human bonds. It is a warning. When we put our identity in the hands of others' gaze, we become hostages. The other's word shapes our desire because we long to be seen as significant. We want someone to tell us, "You matter," and that makes us dangerously vulnerable. Now think about the words that marked you the most. Who spoke them? In a moment of love, rejection, admiration, how many times have you changed course because of praise or criticism? How many desires were born in you just because someone called you capable, beautiful, promising, or, on the contrary, mediocre, unbearable? Nobody? Being for others is the consciousness that mirrors itself. And the problem is that, by making others our mirror, we end up desiring what shines in their eyes, not ours. We enter professions for status, seek relationships for social approval, accumulate symbols of success that no longer touch us deeply. But there is a way back, a breaking point. It begins when we stop to listen, not only to what others say about us, but to what we say to ourselves in silence. When we ask, "If no one saw me, would I still desire this?" That question hurts, because it dismantles the performance. It exposes how much of our desire is choreography performed to impress an audience that may not even be looking. It invites us to take the risk of authenticity, to let desire be born from solitude, not from a display window. So I ask you, what would you still desire if the whole world were blind to you? There is a kind of lie that hurts more than any external betrayal, the lie we tell ourselves. Sartre called it bad faith, when we deny our freedom to escape the anguish of having to choose. And desire is often one of the stages where this theater comes to life. Have you ever said or thought phrases like, "I'm just like this," "I had no choice," "I can't help it"? They are common phrases, repeated almost like harmless mantras. But behind them lies an escape. Because, contrary to what we often claim, there is always a choice. There is always an alternative, even if painful, uncertain, or unpopular. Bad faith is the act of hiding behind a role, pretending that role is all we are. Imagine a woman who says, "I can't leave this relationship because I love him." Is that really so? Or would it be more accurate to say, "I choose to stay because I'm afraid of being alone"? The difference is not just semantic, it is existential. In the second case, there is recognition of freedom. In the first, there is acting. And where there is acting, there is falsified desire. Bad faith turns desire into something passive. Instead of being an act of creation, it becomes an excuse for immobility. Desire becomes something that happens to us, not something we choose to cultivate. The person unhappy at work repeats that they need the salary, but does not mention that they chose comfort over risk. The frustrated artist says that life wouldn't let them, but ignores that they gave in to social pressure for security. True desire was silenced so the bad faith script could continue. It's as if we were staging our lives for an invisible audience expecting coherence with the role we assumed. And the more we identify with that role, the sacrificial parent, the suffering woman, the exemplary employee, the further we move from the possibility of change. Because to change would require admitting we've been pretending for a long time, that we had freedom all along, but chose not to use it. Sartre said, "Man is what he makes of what has been made of him." The phrase carries a brutal load of responsibility. It does not allow the past to be a prison. It doesn't authorize us to say, "I'm like this because of my parents, society, government." It calls us to authorship, to radical responsibility, to the risk of desiring on our own. Now look at your own life. What roles do you play? What desires do you claim to have, but deep down know are too comfortable to be true? What would you gain if you admitted you can choose differently? And, more importantly, what would you lose? Bad. Faith protects, but it also paralyzes. And perhaps the greatest fear is not of failing when changing. Perhaps the greatest fear is recognizing that our current failure is a continuous choice, that no one forced us to live this way. Therefore, the question is not, what is your desire? The question is, are you willing to stop pretending you can't choose? Promise. One of the most common and most dangerous human actions. Promises are words that carry the future, but not just any future. A future that is expected, desired, sold. From early on, we hear promises. If you study, you will succeed. If you are a good person, you will find love. If you work hard, you will be rewarded. They come wrapped in tones of hope, but often function as shackles. We learn to desire not what moves us, but what we were promised would bring meaning. Sartre knew this. He understood that we are beings who project ourselves into the future, but often outsource that project. Society, family, culture, all offer maps. Only those maps do not lead anywhere truly ours. Promises can seduce us like a mirage in the desert. The further we go, the thirstier we become. And the thirst convinces us that the mirage is worth it. Think of the phrases we hear all the time. Buy this and your life will change. Find your soulmate and everything will make sense. Discover your purpose and you will never doubt again. These are promises that shape desires as if they were truths, and we internalize them without questioning. We begin to desire what we were told we should desire. This is how desire becomes a prison. It ceases to be an expression of our project of being and becomes an automatic response to the promises that surround us. We begin to live as if we are chasing validation stamps. If I achieve this, I will be someone. But who defined this? Who defined this someone? One banal yet revealing example, the logic of professional success. Many people chase positions, salaries, and titles that do not even touch their essence, yet they desire them fervently. Why? Because they were conditioned to believe that realization lies there, and that promise became law, even if, upon reaching it, everything still feels empty. Another example. Idealized romantic love. The promise that a perfect relationship will heal our inner fractures, that someone will come to complete us, save us from ourselves. And desire arises not from genuine connection, but from the hope that the pain will go away. But it won't. Because that promise is not true. It is comfortable, but not authentic. Sartre said, "It doesn't matter what they did to you. What matters is what you do with what they did to you." The same logic applies here. It doesn't matter what you were promised. What matters is what you decide to desire because of it. What matters is whether you will continue to follow maps that are not yours or have the courage to draw your own. This demands silence, pause, time away from others' promises, to listen to what truly calls you. Sometimes true desire is modest, other times revolutionary, but it never comes packaged. It does not come ready-made. It does not come with a guarantee. It comes with risk, and that is why it is yours. Now I ask you, how many of your desires are versions of promises you never questioned? How many times have you been frustrated not because you failed, but because you followed a path that was never yours? Are you ready to desire without promises? How do you recognize an authentic desire? There is no formula, no manual. True desire does not shout. It does not leap before your eyes like a lit-up billboard. It whispers. It persists in silence, even when everything around points elsewhere. It does not impose itself. It waits for you to recognize it in the mirror of your own freedom. Sartre said that we are a being that is not what it is, and that is what it is not. A living paradox. This means we are always incomplete, under construction, in transit. And it is in that creative void that desire is born, not as a response to an external absence, but as an expression of our project of being. An authentic desire is one that brings us closer to the most radically honest version of ourselves. But to recognize it, courage is needed. The courage to abandon inherited desires, imposed roles, false promises. The courage to endure the discomfort of uncertainty. Because true desire does not always bring applause, does not always guarantee stability, is not always understood. Sometimes it is subversive, solitary, incommunicable. And that's okay, because it is yours. Begin with one question. What would you desire if no one were watching? Then go deeper. What would you stop desiring if there were no social consequences? Finally, what have you never voiced aloud, but feel as an undeniable truth? These questions are not easy. They have no quick answers. But they are the ones that return you to yourself. You can write in silence the desires you are ashamed to admit. You can map the words that affect you most: freedom, quietude, journey, disconnection, belonging, escape, roots. What echoes do they provoke? What do you feel in your body when you hear them? You will notice that some words ignite and others suffocate. There are words that were given, imposed, forced, and there are those that are born like an internal breath, even if you don't yet know how to translate them into action. Those are the ones that matter. True desire is not necessarily grand. It can dwell in the simple, living by the sea, learning an art, living with less. But what makes it authentic is that it comes from within, not as a response to a social showcase. Sartre said, "Each man must invent his own path." This includes inventing one's own desires. This includes erring, changing one's mind, losing direction and returning. And above all, this includes acknowledging that the freedom to desire carries a price, the price of being responsible for oneself. So, in light of all this, the final question imposes itself more forcefully than ever. Who do you want to be now, when no one else is watching? You have come this far. That already says a lot. Deep down, perhaps you have always felt there was something wrong with the desires that pushed you, that there was a dissonance, a kind of muffled noise between what you wanted and what was expected of you. And now, perhaps you are beginning to name that noise, to realize that it was, in fact, your desire trying to survive under the weight of promises, gazes, and lies you told yourself. There is no definitive answer, no map, no magic formula. There is only the risk of desiring on your own, and the courageous silence to listen to what arises when all external voices grow quiet. It is there that true desire begins to speak. You are free, but not a comfortable, exempt, spiritualized freedom. It is a raw, terrible, radical freedom. The freedom to build yourself with each choice, to deconstruct what is not yours, to say no, to desire differently. Sartre reminded us that the human being is the only being who defines itself after being born. This means your life is still open, and your desires, when chosen with authenticity, have the power to transform you into a living project, not a recycled role. So today, here, now, choose one desire that is yours. Just one. You don't need to tell anyone, just acknowledge it. Let it exist. No justification, no excuse, no promise to anyone. Tomorrow, perhaps, you will turn it into action. For now, it is enough that it is true. And if you want to share, what desire have you never spoken aloud? Write it in the comments. It may be the first step to stop merely living and start existing.